Farmers today are facing rising costs, volatile markets, and extreme weather. The A Better Way to Farm podcast digs into strategies to help you take control of farm inputs and maximize profit so your farm can thrive for generations. Remember to take advantage of our free resources at abetterwaytofarm.com. Now, from America's Heartland, here's your host.
Hey guys, Rod here at A Better Way to Farm, where we increase yields and improve profits. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. We're going to revisit an old friend, and that's going to be sugar. Reasons for doing that? Well, first of all, we've had a tremendous interest in it, and a lot of different people are saying, get us more information, tell us what you can tell us, and so we want to do that. Secondly, we're seeing more and more and more data come out. This is being studied by universities, by independents, by a lot of different people. There just seems to be a real interest in it. I think one of the reasons there's a lot of interest is the mere fact that it is a low investment with a high return opportunity. And we're excited to share with you today, why does sugar matter in plants? Well, first of all, let's talk about the fact that plants would use sugar to do things like transport carbohydrates. It would be used for energy storage, and it has a lot to do with respiration and transpiration. And guys, the conversion of glucose into starch improves the biological function and plant growth. You know, it's interesting because we've seen a lot of different agronomists and a lot of different universities start to talk about this and say what they're seeing. And they're saying that it plays a role in plant growth and defense, that it works as a stress reducer, and that it is enhancing the microbial activity. In particular, you know, we'd cited previously some of the studies coming out of the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. In 2024, they saw a 100% positive yield response if applied at the V4 stage. Now, up until then, they'd had mixed results in past years, but the fact of the matter was that they were able to see a 100% yield response if applied at the V4 stage. They had noticeable improvements in plant color and growth under ideal moisture conditions. Sugar has a lot of impact on the soil health and the microbial activity as well. It's a readily available carbon source for the soil microbes. It stimulates that microbial activity that would drive things like nutrient mineralization, organic matter breakdown, and crop residue decomposition. You know, it's interesting because one of our guys sent us a video and he showed where he had sprayed a product that we have in addition to our sugar and a little bit of nitrogen and made his own stock digester, and the difference in how that stock residue was breaking down just in a half of a year, in other words, between October of last year and early April of this year, was amazing. And it really does feed that decomposition. Some of the research highlights that we'll get into a little bit later. Beck's trials, they looked at in-furrow sugar targeting microbes, not the plant. When we go in the trench, we're feeding the bugs in the soil. In a 2022 biostimulant study, sugar increased the microbial respiration for 4 to 5 weeks. One dose of sugar made the microbial life flourish for 4 to 5 weeks. When microbial flush may briefly tie up nitrogen, but guys, it aids in long-term nutrient cycling. That's one of the things that we want, is that nutrients coming out of that residue and cycling back quicker. Some of the things that microbial stimulation may improve would include nutrient solubilization, including nitrogen and phosphorus, soil structure, because it helps with aggregate formation, root interaction with beneficial biology. We know, guys, getting those mycorrhiza flourishing, that's a symbiotic relationship. The more mycorrhiza we get in that root zone, the more roots we can get. The more roots that we can get, the more mycorrhiza we can get. So what do? Make sure our boron is correct and put some sugar in there and make a difference. Repeated use will support soil health as part of a broader strategy. For instance, maybe you're looking at doing cover crops, maybe you're looking at reduced tillage, whatever it might be. And this is just one piece of the puzzle that will help you with that. I'm going to jump off into some tests we have printed off, some different things that have been done here in studies. I'll start down at the University of Kentucky. This is a new one. I had not found this before, and Karen actually researched this and found it for me. University of Kentucky agronomists point out that small amounts of sugar, applied often a few ounces per acre, are far too low to directly feed the crop relative to what the plants produce via photosynthesis. But they can serve to feed the soil microbes. What are they saying? That 1 pound of sugar isn't going to change the fact that you've got to get 30,000 pounds of sugar to grow 300 bushel corn. But what it is going to do is it's not going to provide the sugar, it's going to provide food for the microbes, and it's going to stimulate everything in that root zone, and it's going to let that plant do a better job of producing that sugar that it needs. And so that's what they're looking at. In Beck's trials, the goal of the in-furrow sugar was to feed microorganisms that drive nutrient mineralization in the soil and free up nutrients rather than feeding the plant directly. They had a deal where they'd actually just studied molasses, and the highest molasses rate led to elevated CO2 respiration, which is a sign of microbial metabolism, for over 4 weeks, and at moderate rates combined with fertilizer showed heightened microbial activity for up to 5+ weeks. What are they saying there? They're saying, hey, row plate starter is your friend and put some sugar with it. We'll make it work better. Guys, you've heard me say it before. Life isn't that hard. Figure out how it works and get on the right side of it. We're figuring it out. Now all we got to do is get on the right side of it. And that's what happens here. They said that this heightened microbial activity may accelerate the breakdown of crop residue and the mineralization of the organic matter, potentially releasing nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus in plant-available forms. One agronomist described the effect as being analogous to giving microbes an energy drink. Applying sugar is like drinking a Mountain Dew. It provides an energy boost, which in turn speeds up residue decomposition and the mineralization of the soil organic matter. Some farmers have reported that in-furrow sugar has led to a more robust early root growth or quicker breakdowns in their fields, again, due to the microbial actions. So there's all kinds of stuff coming in. It's coming in from farmers, it's coming in from universities, it's coming in from independent researchers. Extension experts caution that a sugar application will be quickly used up by the microbes and does not have a lasting effect on soil nutrient levels or organic matter on its own. Instead, the benefit is in the short-term boost to the soil biological engine, which might improve nutrient availability or root interaction with the soil life during these critical growth windows. How do you apply sugar? Well, we don't want to put on a whole bunch at one time. We want to apply sugar like you vote in Chicago. Apply early and apply often, okay? For example, Utah State University researchers tested an artificial honeydew, which was a fancy way of saying sugar water, on alfalfa, and they observed that adult lacewings and lady beetles responded very positively. Significantly higher numbers were found in the sugar-treated plots compared to the unsprayed controls. Other beneficials, such as parastoid wasps, big-eyed bugs, minute pirate bugs, and hoverfly adults, also increased with the sugar, whereas a protein-only spray did not consistently attract them. In another study, sugar solution was applied on corn in Honduras, and beneficial insect counts jumped by 70% immediately after the application versus the controls, and they were double the control a week later. Thanks to those extra lady beetles, parastoids, and other predators, the corn plots had an 18% lower infestation of fall armyworm and about 35% less leaf damage from the armyworm compared to the unsprayed corn. This would suggest that sugar sprays can serve as a biocontrol aid, concentrating natural enemies to suppress pests like caterpillars. Similarly, USDA entomologists found that providing sugar in ladybug diets increased the female survival and it increased the egg production. And in field experiments, soybean plots treated with sugar had more lady beetles present than the untreated plots. They concluded that sugar feeding is important for lady beetle populations and could maintain higher levels of those beneficial predators in crops. In another European study, ladybird beetles lingered 20 to 30% longer in the sugar-treated plots, and their numbers surged 10 to 20-fold in the first few hours after a sugar spray as compared to the unsprayed areas. What are we saying? We're attracting the bugs that we want, and those predatory bugs that we like eat the bugs that we don't like, and we end up with yield increase. A review in the Journal of Experimental Botany discussed how sugar status in the plant influences the innate immunity and stress responses. Now we're just going straight to plant health. In practical terms, adding sugar to the plants via roots or leaves has been shown to prime certain defense genes. As far back as 2007, a study in rice found that supplying extra sucrose to rice plants, either by drenching in the root zone or spraying the leaves, induced upregulation of defense-related genes before pathogens attacked. When these sugar-treated rice plants were later inoculated with the rice blast fungus, they experienced only about half of the disease severity compared to the untreated plants 1 week after infection. So they went out, they treated the plants with sugar, some they treated, some they didn't. They intentionally infested the rice with this disease and found out that even 2 weeks later, the control rice showed severe blast symptoms, while the sugar-treated rice had a much milder disease. This indicates that a foliar sugar application triggered the plant's defenses, helping it resist the pathogen. Another example from a Nebraska field observation in corn trials, plots treated with the sugar consistently showed less stalk rot and stronger stalks by harvest. Across nearly all their corn studies, Nebraska Extension noted improved stalk strength in sugar-treated corn, even if the yields were the same. So sometimes they're saying you may not get a yield increase, but you're going to have greater plant health. And in the event that you have an event that makes your corn go down, this is going to help. Wheat has been studied less extensively, but limited research suggests that sugar might help under stress conditions. In a controlled study on drought-stressed wheat in Pakistan, glucose was applied and it improved drought tolerance and led to higher tiller counts, higher biomass, and higher grain yield under the drought compared to the untreated plants. Foliar glucose at certain concentrations applied during the reproductive stages significantly mitigated yield loss from the drought, partly by improving the physiological traits like leaf water status and photosynthetic rates. These findings indicate sugar could boost yield in wheat under drought stress by acting as a metabolic stimulant. Under normal non-stress conditions, yield responses in wheat to sugar are not well documented in public research. In a UK trial with a molasses-based product applied with a late nitrogen fertilization on wheat showed about a 7 to 8 bushel per acre yield increase compared to only using the fertilizer alone, and this was attributed to the molasses reducing leaf scorch from nitrogen and improving nutrient uptake, thereby modestly increasing grain fill. Sugar treatments have repeatedly shown positive effects on corn stalks like less lodging. Guys, these are things that our growers have been saying to us for years. Things like if you caught that using sugar, they report having less burn. Now we've got other studies, other universities coming in and saying, well, if you do this, it can reduce some burn. We are huge fans of putting sugar in a post-emerge pass with chemicals. Lots of reasons to do it. Support the beneficial bugs, help the plant maybe be, according to this data, not me, but according to what we're hearing here, help with plant health, possibly, as they were saying out of the UK, reducing burn. There's a lot of reasons to do that. So how are we going to put it on? Well, the first thing we take a look at is in furrow. We'll compare that to doing foliar. What happens if we do it in furrow? We jumpstart the microbial activity in that root zone, and we boost the residue breakdown. What happens during foliar? We provide energy during a stressful time, and according to the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, that may very well signal defense pathways and make those defense systems stronger in those plants. Using liquid sugar solutions for better mixing and ease of use seems to be a good idea. We used to go buy granular sugar in town, put it in water, mix it up ourselves. Wasn't that much fun. And guys, we want to come back to this. With our product, we're looking at 1 pint per acre per pass. I've used this story before. I'm going to continue to talk about it. An apple a day will keep the doctor away. 30 apples on the first day of April will make you sicker than a dog. Okay? And what we want to do is make sure that we're not over-applying in a pass. It's just when we're out there, it's easy to do. We just put another pint on each time we go. Yield increases are more commonly observed in soybeans, and I think that's because that's where it's been tested the most. It was where we started. We started putting sugar in the trench in soybeans in the beginning. When we start looking at the corn observations, we end up with larger stalks, better standability. The stronger plants are going to take those late season weather events better. And guys, here's the thing. For $1.49 an acre, It's an insurance policy. If we don't even gain any yield, what if we just start making the residue that's in the soil recycle faster for next year? What if we only get some plant health improvements that maybe we don't have an event where the corn wants to fall over, but we've got insurance against it? So what happens in regards to pests and beneficial insects? As the study said, sugar sprays, calling it an artificial nectar or a honeydew, attracted those lady beetles. It attracted lacewings, hoverflies, pirate bugs, big-eyed bugs, and wasps. And by doing that, then all of a sudden, the bugs that we don't like out there, the ones that we want rid of that come and cut yield, are reduced. I like that study that I quoted from Utah State, talking about consistent increase in the beneficial bugs when using sugar water. I like the study I quoted out of Honduras, where it talked about the fact that instantly they had a 70% increase in beneficial insects immediately. They had a 2x increase. That's a 100% increase a week later. They had an 18% reduction in armyworm infestation. Guys, last year a lot of us fought that armyworm thing. What if we could figure out how to keep those down? And they had a 35% reduction in leaf damage. Again, the USDA said that sugar-fed ladybugs live longer and lay more eggs and stay 20 to 30% longer in the plots. They just stay in there and keep working. They work overtime for you and don't charge you time and a half. Benefits, it's going to reduce the need for insecticides according to these studies. And the bottom line is it can be an improvement in your integrated pest management strategy. Guys, we also know that from the plant health side, we talked about the fact that this sugar acts as a defense signal in the plants. In other words, it makes the plant healthier in and of itself. Again, going back, we've talked about that rice study many times. That's clear back in 2007. This isn't new, guys. That's 18 years ago, where they figured out that rice was much healthier. When they went in there and infected it with rice blast disease, the sugar-treated plants had a 50% less damage rate. In those Nebraska corn trials, to summarize those, that sugar-treated corn had a stronger stalk and less stalk rot. They had reduced lodging, which makes your harvest easier. Let's be honest, nobody wants to harvest down corn, and cut down on yield loss. The sugar-fed microbes will outcompete the pathogens and boost plant immunity. So guys, again, going to the wheat, it is limited research, but it's very promising what they're showing. That Pakistan wheat study talked about under drought conditions. And then they saw how the glucose improved the tiller count and the biomass and improved yield. They said that it worked as a metabolic stimulant. Beck's doing their study in PFR and UK did a sugar trial both, and they showed a 7 to an 8 bushel to the acre yield bump when paired with late season nitrogen. Now, that being said, I'm not a fan of sugar with most nitrogen, but with late season nitrogen, there's some benefit. We are concerned that if we were to put it on early nitrogen in a corn plant, that we might speed up the nitrosomonas bacteria going to work and converting that ammonium over into the nitrate form, and then we might increase our loss. So it's the only place really that we would not be a fan of sugar. In the trench, in the seed trench, absolutely. In a foliar pass, absolutely. In a pre-emerge pass, absolutely. Side dress, maybe, but in that late season in fertilizer in wheat, where there's a very short time frame and there's basically no opportunity for loss, is a great place. And part of the things, again, remember that they were seeing reduced leaf scorch, and that was improving the nutrient uptake. So guys, how do we summarize all of this? Well, number one, we increase the microbial activity so we get better nutrient cycling. We increase the beneficial insects so we increase pest suppression. We end up with a stronger disease resistance, which reduces stress and lodging. We improve plant structure and standability. And we have support for the soil health when we use it in as a part of a broader strategy. So here, what do we think about it? Number one, it's a low-cost, low-risk tool with many benefits. What are we saying? Guys, try something new in 2025. Have you already planted? I got one guy I talked to today, they got about 12,000 acres in. They're done planting. But the fact of the matter is, they can try foliar sugar. If you're still planting, get some in and put it in the seed trench. Guys, here at A Better Way to Farm, we are always going to encourage learning through change. We're going to encourage thinking differently. And that's what this is truly all about. We're going to push people to question what they've been doing, to ask why, or maybe in some cases to say, why not? Why not try some sugar? What will it be like when you try it and your bug counts go down, your pests go down? What will it be like when you try it and you have less lodging? What will it be like when you use it and your soybean yields improve? I'm going to guess it'll make a difference. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you'd like some more information and you want to talk to us, reach out to Karen. You can text Karen at 641-919-5570 and tell her you'd like some information on sugar. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it very, very much. And as always, we hope you are having a better day.